What's up, fighting fans? Tips from the Fight IQ channel. Today we're coming back for another episode of the Fight IQ show. And let's talk about last weekend. I'm gonna give you my top 3 of the fights I saw and tell you why they must be watched or rewatched. To make this ranking, I base my opinion on these criteria: the excitement, the duration of the fight, the opposition level, and the way to finish the fight. After that, I will mention some other fights that might be worth your attention and a few words to recap what happened this weekend. So let's get ready to rumble! This weekend we had a lot of events. I watched the Cage Warriors 166 in San Diego on Friday 23rd, the LFA 177 in Niagara Falls on Friday 23rd, the Santiago vs Nakatani boxing card in Tokyo on Friday 23rd, the PFL vs Bellator champs events in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Saturday 24th, and the UFC Fight Night in Mexico on Saturday 24th. I didn't have time to watch the KSW events, so sorry guys, but yeah, if you want to know about it, maybe you can check it online. I was overall a bit disappointed by the quality of the events, but still there were some great fights. Number 3, Daniel Zellhuber vs Francisco Prado. It was on the main card of the UFC Fight Night in Mexico on Saturday 24th. And what a fight, guys, this one really surprised me. The discipline from Zellhuber, his commitment to his game plan, I think that's really something to see. He was facing Francisco Prado, a shorter opponent but with devastating power. Prado was trying to cut the distance, and to do so he was exploding, throwing his heavy hands, mostly attacking with hooks. But this strategy didn't have so much success because Zellhuber was prepared for it. He was staying at good distance, using his jab or even his kicks. He was keeping his guard up, and the longer the fight went, the more efficient this strategy was. The jab, the hooks from Zellhuber were finding their target, the kicks were impacting Prado's movement and speed, and he took a lot of damage. He didn't give up though, he stayed in the fight, he tried his best, he has a lot of heart, and he finished the fight with one eye and gushing blood. Real demonstration from Zellhuber. Even without getting a finish, it was really impressive, so well deserved win for him. We're seeing his improvements and I can't wait to see his next fight. Also, hats off to Prado, real warrior spirit. I really would like to see him again in the octagon. I think he can do some great things. Number 2, Impact Kasanganay vs Johnny Eblen. It was the co-main event of the PFL vs Bellator event in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Saturday 24th. Best fight from the event and from quite far, really surprising too. Kasanganay came prepared, he was looking really sharp at 185 pounds. Really powerful strikes, accurate too, he caused a lot of problems to Eblen. As I expected, Eblen tried to wrestle early in the fight. He succeeded to take Impact down, but this one showed good resistance. The round 1 was really close in my opinion. Impact was doing way more damage with his striking, but Eblen was having success with the wrestling. The second round was all Kasanganay. He hurt Eblen early in the round, even dropped him, and he damaged his face a lot. Really accurate and powerful punches, unloading everything he had, and that's when you can admire Eblen's chin, experience and conditioning. He survived the storm, he took the fight to the ground, controlling the position and recovering slowly. He controlled the third round. Kasanganay was starting to gas out. I think the weight cut had something to do with that. Eblen got back at him with some striking, and of course he took the fight to the ground where he controlled his opponent. And he was aggressive on the ground as well. He tried to be in a position where he could attempt a submission, but he didn't succeed because Kasanganay was tired, but he was not ready to give up. He even tried to give some elbows to Eblen while having his back controlled. I would have loved to see this fight going for 5 rounds. Unfortunately, it was only 3 that went to the decision, and Eblen got it, even if it was a really close fight. That was definitely not the best version of the Bellator's champ, but he stayed really lucid. He knew what to do to turn the fight around against a very aggressive, powerful and motivated opponent. A lot of respect between the two fighters at the end of the fight. I think they both impressed one another, and I'm really excited to see what's next for both of them. And number 1, Yair Rodriguez vs Brian Ortega, co-main event of the UFC Fight Night, which was in Mexico on Saturday 24th. Incredible fight between two guys that really throw caution out the window. First of all, I really like the respect they both gave each other. That's the true spirit of martial arts right there, and that's not something you see that often anymore. Ortega seemed a bit off when starting the fight, and he almost injured his ankle during Bruce Buffer's announcement. Rodriguez started the fight really aggressive, his striking was on point, finding openings quickly and damaging Ortega. And Ortega seemed to only suffer in that first round, and he came really close to being finished by Rodriguez. But as I said in a preview, you can never count Ortega out. He started to recover at the end of the first round and finished on top. And second round is a whole different story, guys. Ortega came completely transformed. He was setting the pressure on Rodriguez with his striking and then took him to the ground, completely dominating. He even opened a huge cut on Yair's face with some elbows. And because it worked so good, why changing the plan? So repeat in round 3, Ortega bringing the fight to the ground as soon as possible, and he transitioned smoothly and quickly to an arm triangle position and finished his opponent. It really was an amazing comeback from Ortega. He seemed really emotional after the fight. He even went in the crowd to hug his kids. After the fight, when the decision was announced, both fighters gave a lot of respect to each other. So Ortega comes back in the win column, showing that he's still a top featherweight, in which was also an amazing display of his tenacity and his skill set. I saw 2 other fights that came really close to come in my top 3. First of all, the main event from the UFC Fight Night in Mexico, Moreno vs Royval. Very competitive matchup, 25 minutes of action, it was going back and forth, and in my opinion it's really hard to say who got the win. Royval got the split decision, but I think it could have also gone the other way. And the second fight was Inoue vs Ancajas, the co-main event of the Santiago vs Nakatani boxing card. Amazing display of Inoue's IQ, adapting the game plan to his opponents, avoiding damage while inflicting a lot. He won by KO with a beautiful uppercut to the liver. I would like to say a word on the PFL vs Bellator event. The event was supposed to be great, some good fights on paper, but due to some cancellation and some fighters clearly not showing at their best, the event was only okay-ish. Clarissa Shields won on the undercard, but I wonder about her future in MMA. She has a big heart for sure, but there is a gap between her and other MMA athletes. Also, she fought at 165, which doesn't exist in MMA, and I would be really curious to see her at 145, which is the highest in women's MMA. The PFL fighters were clearly not at the level of their Bellator pairs. Maki made quick work of Clay Collard, he submitted him early in the round 1. Jason Jackson also beat Ray Cooper without too much trouble. Nemkov submitted Capelosa. Only Renan Ferreira won for PFL. He knocked Bader out, but I'm really not happy with the ref there, to be honest. Of course you can see that Bader is hurt after a big punch from Ferreira. He dropped him and then Bader turned his face on the ground, but Ferreira only hit the back of his head after that. I think that shouldn't have been allowed. Also, despite the effort to make the event spectacular, we saw Mike Tyson and Ngannou, John Jones. The crowd really sucked. I didn't feel anything even during the best matchups. Shout out to Malik Basael, a flyweight amateur on the card. I think he's freaking good and I can see him turn pro. A word on UFC Mexico, not that good either in my opinion, but this time the crowd was overexcited. They were booing a lot the fighters, they even fought between themselves. But the fights were okay, still high level competition, but was not the best card that Mexico could have offered. Good performances from Ronaldo Rodriguez, Edgar Chairez, Manuel Torres, and a great comeback from Ronnie Barcelos. The boxing event was lit, really technical boxing, I loved it. Nakatani took the WBC World Bantamweight title after knocking out Santiago, and Kosei Tanaka fought hard during 12 rounds to keep his belt versus Christian Bacasegua. The LFA 177 was really fun to watch. Great performances from Liam Anderson, Joe Taylor, Shannon Clark and Shamit Khan Magomedov. I was not so shook by Cage Warriors 166. Still, I saw some good performances from Mason Jones, Boston Rice and David Goodale. So that's it regarding last weekend. If you enjoyed that video, you know the drill. Please give a hard punch to those like and subscribe buttons. And please go hit the comments, go on Discord, Telegram, Instagram to give me your thoughts on the last bangers. I'll see you later this week.